With the hero work studies back in effect, the 3 top heroes of Class 1A stay under the new number 1 pro hero. Meanwhile, the fire-powered hero undergoes an uncharacteristic affinity. It's quite an interesting way to describe what's taking place in this particular arc of the Rise of the Villain Saga. Hey guys, what's up? Lucky Cheese 7 is here today to give you guys yet again another... Well, I can't say yet again, but for the most part, another My Hero Academia podcast. I mean, the last one was Season 4, but I figure now, since it's been quite a while from the last time we talked about the manga, given what's currently happening, I figured let's play a little bit of catch up. Because, well, when we get to the latest arc, we'll get the latest arc when it finishes. But normally, when we do one of these things, these manga podcasts, normally, there's like 2 or 3 people. But today, it's only just one. Unfortunately, it's the one that has left a trail of many, many curses. But I'll let him introduce himself. I'll let him do the introductions.
You're just never going to let that go, are you? You're just never going to let that go.
I mean, the history shows any series he touches, like Naruto, like Bleach, all of them that are ongoing. Well, let me be specific. All the ongoing series. Anything that's finished as well, that's finished.
I think I'm pretty sure the history of this part of me going on your podcast will ruin me career-wise. When they just look back, they're like, oh my god, he's cursed! But anyway, hello everyone. BlueStarSaber here to join Lucky Chi for another podcast. Granted, we recently did a Boruto chapter discussion stream on my channel recently, the one about the identity of Kashin Kojin, if you want to check that out, and see our thoughts of the chapter things. No, it's not going to become a recurring thing. No, surprisingly, I'm once again here with just Lucky Chi as his only guest, which is a bit surprising, to be honest.
Yes, especially since it's a My Hero Academia podcast. Normally, there's more than one, but
you usually either have Margarita, 4Life, or Steve, at least one of them joining us. But yeah.
Well, stuff happens.
They're all too busy.
So I can understand them being busy.
Yeah. Damn you!
Then I think it's going to be a while before the next arc ends. So who knows?
Oh yeah. Because the next arc is a war.
It's officially, yeah. Like even Jump has clarified it too. So it's officially a war arc. Mm-hmm. But that's going way far ahead. That's way too far into the future. Mm-hmm. At least as far as podcasts goes. So if y'all are new, y'all should know that I usually have a structure when it comes to the podcast. That includes the manga podcasts. Except here, the thing I want to bring up is that I may leave something might be left out from this because I feel like there was a few things that I threw in the other podcast that might not be in here just because of how long it's been. But I think for the most part, I've got it covered. So normally, what we do is we go into our thoughts on where things have been with My Hero Academia from the previous arc. And then coming into this arc, give our thoughts on the arc, talk about the positives and the negatives, and then, ranking the arcs as a whole in the Rise of the Villain Saga. And finally, from there, you get to overall predictions on what could be happening next. But because we already kind of know that, it might be something we might leave out, but
we could talk about what we were expecting at least, but I guess.
Yeah. We could definitely do that. But with That being said, since it's just me and Blue Star, we'll just have a open discussion just amongst us two.
Mm-hmm.
So, coming into the arc from the Meta Liberation Army arc, which I said like when not during that arc, but the arc before that, which was the controversial one in particular, the
joint training arc.
The joint training arc. When that arc finished, I said, I think the next arc will be an improvement over My Hero, but not the comeback arc. And I was spot on with that when it came to the Meta Liberation Arc, because I was like, all right, yeah, it was an improvement, but it wasn't.
And it focused on your boy Shigaraki.
It did. After 60 chapters.
Oh well, but hey.
I hope Season 5 does a much better job at explaining that, but for the most part, I was pretty much right when it came to that arc, when I said, yeah, it'll be an improvement in the fact that, okay, so storytelling-wise, and as far as like execution goes, for the most part, it was good. Except if you want to lump in how the final fight turned out with Destro.
I mean, it's a sort of break or miss thing. On one hand, you've got Shigaraki, again, a massive army. He's massively powered up. He's more powerful than he's ever been. And it's like, you're actually probably now scared for Deku and that lot. But at the same time, it's like, this feels like stuff that should have perhaps happened a bit longer into the series, at least. Or
well, this is what I think. Re-listening in on the old pod on that arc in particular, I actually want to quote Sparta on this, because he said that like if Redestro was actually like searching for someone to follow, I think it could have like actually kind of fixed at least that aspect to Redestro's character, because I was like, okay, that felt a little off, but if it was something like that, it could have made the arc just a tad bit better, you know?
I suppose it did feel a bit last minute, really. Thing. I'm not sure if this was the editor saying, you need to give Shigaraki an army and stuff, but who knows? This might have been the plan to begin with. But either way, it does feel like, granted, it did feel like it is one of the more darkest arcs of My Hero Academia.
It did.
Most is the fact that you have Shigaraki's origins revealed in this one.
I don't know about you, but I thought his backstory was kind of depressing.
Oh, yeah, it definitely felt like some of the more tragic Naruto or One Piece backstories, that's for certain.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, and I suppose, let's see, there's also and there was also a few deaths in the actual main canon, let's see, timeline-wise, with one of the Meta Liberation villains dying. Granted, now that, let's see, given the fact that they ended up joining, I'm wondering if it was like, it seemed kind of pointless to kill her off, could have added more variety, but I guess only Toga can be the only female villain. Only one female villain per group, it seems. But yeah. So yeah.
Much? No, I'm joking. So yeah, take this into account. It's actually, well, at least as far as that arc goes, it was like the first real proper arc without having. Well, actually, I can't say that, because the Pro Hero arc technically didn't have like anyone from Class A involved either.
Let's see. In many ways, the Pro Hero arc was the focus on the
Endeavour.
big time heroes, Endeavour, and the Meta Liberation was the focus on the villains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
In many ways, I suppose you could. The only thing I can kind of compare this similar to is how, at some point in Naruto, in early part 2, you had, after 2 major arcs focusing on like Team 7, you went to then a Shikamaru-centric arc and then a Sasuke-centric arc, which I think was infamously dubbed as the Year of Sasuke. But hey.
I think it was. I think.
Let's see, one thing I think after this arc is, given how powerful Shigaraki had become, and from what this arc is implying, he's getting more power, you're wondering, how is Deku and his classmates going to face this force? How are they going to catch up?
Well, and that's the thing, like, I could be totally wrong here, but I think it's solely going to be Deku versus Shigaraki. That's what I believe it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would it be cool to have like Ochako and them team up with Deku to take him down? Sure, but well, and again, we're jumping so far ahead, but
this is probably what we should probably expectations for the next arc. We should probably talk about that, but
yeah, we'll talk about that. But yeah, but just coming here from the Meta Liberation Army, coming out from Shigaraki, I was like, okay, I'm curious. Definitely a little curious as to like where it was going to go, and immediately the year just started. Actually, it's actually like a new year for them.
Yeah, I believe one of the first few chapters is they're celebrating Christmas, which is a bit odd because I think actual time-wise, it wasn't actually. It was a few months away from Christmas. I think this arc actually ended at the end of the year.
I think
Well, before that, we actually had an interview. It was mostly an interview thing when you had Mount Lady come in, which I'm going to be honest, looking back at the chapter, I forgot that Koei introduced her in a sort of particular pose. I think you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that's always kind of been a thing for the volumes, but I don't know, like actually no, I don't think it was in the other volumes, but like I'm noticing like it's definitely something that's getting a little bit more
noticeable
attention in the panels, at least to me, because I'm like thinking, huh.
I mean, I suppose it's at least with Mount Lady, I guess she's an actual full-grown adult rather than a barely legal teenager, which I've never really felt comfortable with when it comes to My Hero Academia, or any shonen manga. But okay, that's a topic for another time.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that when it comes to the next arc, because I guess without spoiling anything for the next arc, that's I wouldn't say a pet peeve, but it is kind of just like, all right, where is it?
Yeah, dude, but I did find the the first chapter, the interview, to be quite interesting, where they're talking about public
It's relations. Funny. I'll definitely say the first chapter was pretty funny.
I mean, Bakugou, yeah, you just keep him away from the media entirely. Let's see, Todoroki is just too serious for his own good. But then again, I suppose this is what happens when you're being locked up for like special training your whole life. You kind of just begun having new social skills, because I think he didn't really have any proper friends until starting UA High and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see, Deku was a complete robot.
Of course.
But yeah.
I'm glad that despite all of this, that's the one part of him that's still there. That part's always funny.
He talks about I believe he talks about how he admires All Might, but it's also a bit of to show off some of the more signature special moves and stuff. But yeah. So I'm just trying to get the chapter up a bit so I can skim through it and remember some of the details. Even though I did do it. Let's see. Oh yeah, another funny thing is how Shoto's trying to be friends with Bakugou, but Bakugou's just outright refusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. But yeah. Oh, by the way, it seems like Mount Lady has a crush, might be developing a crush on Shoto, which is kind of but then again, the same thing happened with that one pussycat woman. You might remember that, but yeah. One thing to notice that Deku, we've also seen a bit of progress with Deku's quirk. It's barely progress, which he seems to be proud of, but everyone's going like, yeah, this is not really something to be happy about, but yeah. But the thing that mostly the end of the chapter implies was just fun seeing everyone interview and stuff. We revealed that this arc is the next round of work studies.
Yeah.
Which seems to be what they decide to do as the pre-war arc thing, because there have been a lot of war arcs lately in Shonen, and there have been at least a few pre-arcs towards it, such as for Naruto it was the Turtle Island, in which he learned his origins. Black Clover, I believe, had a tournament arc. Bleach, I guess you could say, was the full bring, I guess, with Ichigo getting his powers back, but then again, I don't think anyone knew there was going to be a war arc for that, but yeah, it just kind of suddenly happened. Fairy Tail, I believe, was getting the guild back together.
I think for Bleach, for the full bring arc, it was kind of like, the Chapter Black Saga from Yu Yu Hakusho.
Fair enough, but yeah, that's probably more accurate.
Yeah.
Bleach never really had a pre-war arc, and I suppose, depending on how you debate it, you could either have Amazon Lily or Imperial Down as the pre-war arc for, like, One Pieces. I guess for, like, I suppose in the time skip, you could have the Levely arc, mini arc thing as the pre... Or even just Act 1 and Act 2 of one arc as, like, the pre-war stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like... But yeah, it seems like for this... But from what at the end of this chapter, it was implying that we're getting a second round of work studies, and this is going to be what's going to help Midoriya and his friends get stronger. It seems to be a bit mixed on this, because I think it feels like they're just trying to build up, like, child soldiers or something like that. But as we all as they kind of suspect, but we the audience know, is that the League of Villains have now got a massive army. So it's likely that a big conflict's going to happen. So it's like that. But at the moment, let's see. Another interesting thing is in this chapter, because for a while I think everyone seemed to think that Koei forgot about it, is that this so-called spy in UA, the principal doesn't seem to think any of the students is a spy. So it might.
That is true. Yeah, like, I mean, it was a topic that a lot of people were like, I don't like, because no one really mentioned it after a while. It's like.
So yeah, so it seems like we are going to eventually find out. We're probably going to get a spy in the end, but we still don't know who it is. But it might end up being one of the teachers.
Yeah.
But granted, which teacher it could be, I have no idea, because I can't see any of the well-known teachers being the spy. It might be just a minor character we don't care about. Let's see, but hey, granted, we could still be surprised. Anyway, All Might seems to have forgotten that it's Christmas. But yeah, this chapter came out, I think, time or something. I don't know, at least a few months. But yeah,
I'll say this: the one part about the Christmas chapter I thought was kind of cute was the whole Aerie bit where she thought it was Halloween.
Yeah,
that was funny.
That was funny. Granted, in this one, we kind of learn that both. Let's see, the work studies that Midoriya did with like Sanai is unfortunately too busy due to the fact that Centipedes took over, but it turns out I done a lot of work, and for Bakugou, best genius is still missing. Though from what what the manga's implied, let's see, Hawks might have ended up killing him. Interesting, because it shows a bit of an interesting relationship, because from the looks of it, Bakugou didn't really like going to best genius, but it seems like he had a name. He's figured a name. See, but it's figured like he wants to return there so he can reveal to him his hero name that he's come up with, which we still don't know. But hey, there's also like some fun Secret Santa gifts, which seems to be Midoriya and Uraraka seem to have gotten each other's gifts.
Yeah, the Ochiko one I thought was kind of funny because the fact that she keeps it in her helmet.
Oh yeah, and her new design-wise thing, which is another sign of a war arc, is that your characters change costume for the war. Oh yeah, another funny panel I'm just looking at is apparently, I'm trying to remember his name, the one that has Dark Shadow, Toyama, isn't it?
Yeah, Tokoyami.
And the one that's called Twitzy has wrapped a giant sword, which shocks the one that's called Tailman. I've forgotten his name, but yeah. And it's even funnier that Eri ends up getting the gift.
That is pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
But anyway, the main part, the cliffhanger of this chapter is that Todoroki is offering Bakugou and Midoriya, since they don't have anyone to work study with, he can come and join them for Endeavour.
Which I thought was actually kind of interesting, because I was going to say that it's been a while since we've actually had Todoroki in the focus. I mean, I know some people want to say the joint training arc, but even then, he barely had any prominence there.
And to me, I think the highlight for his battle was mostly Ida, who hadn't really gotten quite a bit of spotlight since the Stain arc.
Yeah.
But hey, what would seem to be one of the main characters ended up being back to the sidelines for quite a bit. But anyway. But yeah, you pretty much have the three most popular characters in My Hero Academia going to the number one hero. But yeah, so it's like interesting because at this point, Midoriya's run out of mentors and psychics of All Might's to go to, so now he's going to perhaps All Might's biggest rival, at least in terms of the hero thing, though granted, it was more one-sided on Endeavour's stuff. Well, Bakugou is going towards a hero that's, in many ways, probably similar to him in terms of reputation. Anyway, one interesting thing is in this chapter is that we get a bit of Hawks interacting with the Paranormal Liberation Front, really like with Sliding Go.
Yeah, so we're seeing a little bit of like more. We're seeing more things with that.
I think the funniest bit of this chapter is Endeavour welcoming like Midoriya Bakugou, looking friendly at first. It's like, yeah, this ain't happening, you little brats. And he's only clearly doing this because Shoto asked him. This is also funny because Bakugou just outright insults him. It's just funny, isn't it?
It was pretty amusing. That's for sure.
But of course, we get a little flashback of, All Might, telling him, yeah, you two should go for the thing. And, straight into action, the villain's causing some chaos. Some sort of, like, wizardy professor with these orbs, I think. Saying the end is nigh, but yeah. You have Midoriya, Bakugou, and Shoto following behind, with Hawks ready to meet Endeavour and stuff, which they chase the villain who has, I think, the ability to manipulate glass, I think.
Yeah.
You get a brief, chase sequence, which ends up ends with like Hawks coming at the last second to take out the guy's goons, which and to give Endeavour the Meta Liberation book, which Endeavour is a bit suspicious because of the way he's presenting it. I'm being a bit quick because I feel like I'm summarizing every chapter here. I mean, there's only 12 chapters, so it's not too bad, but let's see. I am called Mr.
It's a bit like a summarization, just a little bit.
He's pretty much they each given the book, which Hawk seems to have like a lot, which is his way of doing a sort of coded message to every hero there is, but yeah. During this, we end up seeing what Endeavour's agency is like, and we get the main sidekick, Burnin, the flame,
yeah.
Which isn't the most original name, but hey, it works, I think. It works for someone like Endeavour. So yeah, you have Endeavour looking at the message, and he's able to figure out that League of Villains has hijacked the Meta Liberation, and they're preparing for war. And we end up seeing through the the League of Villains is planning with a Metal Liberation Army that they're planning to, while spreading their ideology, they're planning to also destroy the country. In 4 months. In 4 months, we're getting a war.
Which kind of actually happens in a weird way. But again, that's jumping too far ahead.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
Due to this, we also get, like, the next chapter has Shigaraki wanting more power and asking the Doc to give him that and stuff. But yeah, he says you can never have too much power. And this is the first time it seems like Shigaraki is told of One for All, which I suppose, yeah, makes sense, as he never realized that Midoriya has All Might's powers. Granted, due to Hawks' spying, luckily he hasn't been suspected since, even though he's handing out books to everyone, though Redestro seems to think he's just spreading the gospel. Though granted, we also get a few Twice and Hawks interactions in this, which will be important down the line later. But yeah, I do like how Twice still has no idea what they're doing. Let's see. He's clearly a guy that doesn't care about ideology. He just cares about his villainous friends and stuff. But yeah. So yeah, due to this, Endeavor's deciding to train all three of them together. Because yeah, because clearly, let's see, this is going to be because like clearly, let's see, you can't fool around. A war's coming. You need to get every hero you can get. Which we get this kind of nice double panel seeing of every one in, let's see, Class 1A with their interns. Let's see, you also get some of the students from Class B. For example, Uraka has gone, and Suya have gone back with the Dragon Lady. And it seems like one of the gals from Class B is there. Let's see, Kirishima's, and along with the, let's see, his like Class B counterpart, I've forgotten his name. I've gone back to Fat Gum. Let's see, you have the likes of Mineta, Sero, and I'm trying to remember the electric dude's name.
Denki?
Yeah, Denki. I've gone with Mount Lady's team, which I'm a bit surprised because Mineta had a bad history with her.
Well, you already kind of know where that's going to go.
Yeah. But see, interesting. Ida has gone back to that hero from the Stain arc internship, but yeah, it's kind of nice just seeing everyone. You're seeing everyone training at least. You're not gonna. It's gonna be Midoriya, Bakugou, and Shoto Endeavour focused arc, but you're at least seeing everyone else train. Get a glimpse of where they're all training. At least here, you know they're definitely learning new skills. I do like how when Endeavour asks for the next, going into asks what they want to do, improve on, Midoriya does one of his long rambles, which makes everyone's like, you lost me there, but...
Yeah, the fact that Endeavour caught on to that was the part I was like, huh. He actually caught on to every single word that he said.
He's clearly, so yeah, he's commented he's clearly number one for like a lot of things. But yeah. Which Endeavour can comment further on how, yeah, Midoriya is very compatible with like All Might, which he still hasn't figured it out yet, but we'll get to that later. So Bakugou just wants to improve his skills and stuff, and Shoto wants to master Flash Fire. But of course, we still learn that Shoto still hasn't quite forgiven Endeavour, but he's willing to work as a hero, which Endeavour probably understands why. So yeah, the objective is for this arc is for them to eventually beat Endeavour to catch a villain or save people before he does. So yeah.
Yeah.
Which we see montage of their training and them trying to catch a few villains, and Endeavour explaining what heroes do with rescue, fight, or and also people who are exceptions. Because he's even comparing to All Might, how he's able to, and stuff, but because there's a limit to how strong you get. Though with All Might, it was kind of limitless a bit. there's another thing for why we're focusing on Endeavour. We're going back to, like, the Shoto family drama.
Well, okay, yeah, well, more so with the family end. I mean, there are some things still between Endeavour and Todoroki that I didn't like. Where you see Endeavour, where you see Todoroki just being like, I know I'm your son and all, but you can still be you, and not act all too polite,
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, there's a family home dinner, but this time Midori and Bakugou are invited, which makes sense because, well, Midoriya fully knows about the family drama, and Bakugou overheard it. Or he hasn't quite. No, he does tell him about it. We're getting like visions of Endeavour sleeping about his family looking happy on the dinner table, but without him. Family dinner. They meet. Let's see, with Natsu and the sister whose name I forget. Let's see. It makes me. I don't know why, but I keep thinking of the joke about how Natsu left My Hero Academia so he could start his own series in Fairy Tail, though Fairy Tail came out way before My Hero, so hey. But yeah.
Well, it's not like the name Natsu is exclusive to Fairy Tail, but
I know. Let's see, names aren't really exclusive though. Yeah. Though, of course, once a protagonist has a name, you can't really use it in another series, as let's see, Oda ended up happening with Naruto and Sanji. As interesting trivia, folks, Sanji was originally going to be named Naruto.
Might have been better. Who knows?
Well, who knows? It seemed to work out in Oda's favor when it came to like Sanji's family in the future. But hey,
yeah.
It's clearly like Bakugou and Natsu see the family tension stuff, and I think Bakugou confesses that he overheard the two to Midoriya. Granted, Todoroki's still not sure what to feel, but yeah, and we kind of learn that it seems like Endeavour's eldest son, the one that was briefly mentioned, Toya. It's implied that he's dead because there's a funeral, because there's sort of like a memorial site in the house. But I think you and I know that many theorize that Darby is Toya.
That's the thing. Like, I kind of we've talked about this for a while, like in the other podcasts, but it was kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, Darby there's some connection between him and Endeavour and Todoroki. We just don't know what it is. Now, the fact that we got introduced to another sibling who was dead could make sense. I could definitely see it as a possibility.
Yeah. You do wonder if he's trying to do an Obito, or if Kawai's trying to do an Obito with Darby.
Well, and here's the thing, actually. Not to get into the next arc, because I want to save that for when we get to it, but there's something that happens in the next arc that's related to Aizawa, and the only way I can see the Toya thing working is if you have something like, maybe Obito is a good way to put it, where it's like, okay, he died, or you're assumed to think he died, and then something happened, and
I think I know what you mean with the Aizawa stuff, because that also feels like an Obito thing.
Yeah, but again, I'm not going to get into exactly why.
But yeah, because that is the next arc. Let's see, the next part of this, eventually, Natsu gets captured by a villain, some sort of bandage-like villain. Let's see, in the next arc, while Midoriya and Bakugou are learning a bit more about the Shoto family history, particularly how Natsu was closer with the elder brother. Apparently that he blames Endeavour for his death. I mean, we don't know what caused it, but it seems like
something happened, for sure. That much is certain.
Yeah. I mean, granted, let's see, the only flashback we kind of get is, we see a bit more of when Shoto got burnt by his mother, that she immediately regrets it. I guess the mangaka is still reminding us that, well, Endeavour was a bit of a very unpleasant fellow years before his current, I suppose, set path to redemption, I guess. But yeah. But Midoriya seems to think that Todoroki is getting ready to forgive him, but Natsu is kidnapped, and just as, like, let's see, Midoriya and Bakugou and Shoto getting a chauffeur back to their school. I just want to say that chauffeur's funny.
Yeah. He is pretty funny.
But clearly we get this sort of, like, mummified villain that Endeavour fought 7 years ago. Let's see. Whose name is Ending, apparently. Is to die by Endeavour's hands, but Endeavour didn't kill him last time. So he's now giving him sort of motivation to kill him. If he doesn't kill him, he'll kill his son. Of course, next, Endeavour's hesitating because he doesn't want to harm his son, but Midoriya, Bakugou, and Shoto end up springing into action and able to rescue him. Let's see, Natsu, but they also prevent any casualties from happening and defeat, let's see, the villain, and you also get a brief glimpse of, like, of their new move sets, and let's see, seeing Midoriya mastering his new skills with the Black Whip quirk. In the final chapter, you have Endeavour hugging Natsu, apologizing to him, I guess, or saying you don't need to have to forgive him, apologizing for what Toyo's done. But Natsu clearly is a bit torn by this because it's like it's too late to give apologies and stuff. Let's see.
In a sense, yeah.
So Endeavour says, like, you don't have to forgive me. He's not looking for forgiveness, just atonement, which... Let's see, but yeah. Let's see, the villain's not happy with the way Endeavour's talking, because clearly he wants that fiery, ferocious Endeavour, but...
Development!
Yeah, but yeah, the villain is captured, Natsu's safe, but Endeavour ends this arc by saying that he's going to rebuild the house, but he's going to stay in there, while he's going to move his family to a more safer, house without him. As his vision in the dream is implying that this is probably for the best. I've caused this family too much pain. It's best that they have a bit of distance from me. At least for the time being, possibly. So the sort of arc ends on a bit of a somber note with Endeavour, so yeah. Blimey, I ended up doing, like, sort of 30 minutes of summarizing, but hey. How did you want to discuss this? What are the structures of the podcast again?
It was positives and negatives, mainly. That's what we were going to dabble into. I'll say this, as far as how my thoughts go for the arc, I like the fact that it was kind of short, It wasn't like a super long arc where...
It's one of those standard 1 month one volume length of arcs, really.
Yeah, because I think, well, actually, no, because technically, if you look at it, it starts at volume 25, because I looked back up the volume, so 25 is where it starts at, and then 26 is where it ends.
Okay, fair enough, but yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like 12 chapters, which depending on if you do it like a Kishimoto, whenever it comes to Uchihas, you put 12 chapters in a volume. But hey,
Uchihas, god damn it!
Yeah, we're not talking about that. Let's see, flame-eyed family. We're talking about the Fire and Ice family of Shoto.
For all you Naruto fans out there, if you're wondering, I've got something planned, but I'm not going to reveal what it is just yet.
Anyway, one thing I do like is that you get, like, at the beginning you have these fun slice-of-life moments with the interviews, Christmas, with some funny moments.
The whole conversation between All Might, Deku, and Bakugou, I like that whole conversation. I think that's one of my positives for for this arc was actually having them talk with All Might about it, and then getting his input and like seeing if it could work or not.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Like he has a complicated relationship with Endeavour, but since Endeavour spent most of his life trying to surpass All Might.
Yeah,
and he respected him for it and stuff. But yeah, but Endeavour seeing All Might seeing Endeavour's trying to change as he's become the new #1 hero and stuff. But yeah, I definitely like the interactions with Bakugou, Endeavour, and Midoriya as
that was cool for sure. That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, Endeavour can just understand Midoriya's ramblings while Bakugou is rude even to the #1 hero. He's like, "Are you sure these are your friends, Shoto?" Which is like...
That was pretty funny. I mean, that was actually pretty amusing.
I mean, Shoto clearly sees them both as friends, and Midoriya sees him likewise, but Bakugou still is not at that level yet.
Bakugou, he's just like, he reminds me of how I used to be. I don't know if I approve of that at this point. I actually wonder how Bakugou would have fared being trained under Endeavour.
That would be interesting, but yeah. But yeah. Another thing I'd say is that the Hawks relaying the messages to the heroes, I think, was also pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I like that everything that happened in the last arc is actually kind of like laying. Well, I wouldn't say laying the groundwork per se, but throwing little nuggets at like, all right, so here's like the aftermath of that arc, figuring out what's going on with Shigaraki and them, and then what the plan is that the Meta Liberation, or I should say, Shigaraki's faction's doing.
Yeah, we get a little hint of what they plan to do with this massive army.
Mm-hmm.
And what Shigaraki's planning as he's powering up, and then afterwards they're going to launch a whole-out assault to cause a bit of chaos. But yeah, absolute destruction. Well, granted, we learn a bit more of the plan in the next arc at the beginning, but we get a little hint of it here.
Just a little bit, yeah.
And it's also setting up, Shigaraki learning about One for All and stuff, and eventually finding out who's the identity of it and stuff. But yeah, maybe that's for the future on and stuff. But yeah, I do like that we get like a brief, like I kind of said this earlier with the double panels, but yeah, brief glimpses of everyone else training, which, looking back, I kind of wish Naruto did, so you could at least, even if because if Kishimoto was going to focus on the K11 again, you could okay, I'm not, while Naruto, you're seeing Naruto's training, you're at least seeing the others are also preparing for war, and they also have a few new moves up from them as well, but yeah. I digress. He could have done that for the K11, but hey. So then, people wouldn't say, these new moves look like ass balls, but hey. At least, particularly with Sakura, but hey. Oh well.
I mean, you could have easily had a setup where, at the end of Five Kage Summit, her and Tsunade have, some kind of session going on, and it's oh, so that's what came from. You could have done that, but...
Oh, well, clearly. But anyway. I also do like that the goal for this arc is for, Midoriya, Bakugou, and Shoto to beat Endeavour to the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, Endeavor's analytical skills thought were really cool, too, where he had to, read the book and, oh, okay, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think we should finally get to the Endeavour family stuff now.
Yeah, so we talked about Toya, and so we know the drama between Endeavour and Natsu isn't more of what happened with the mom, but also it goes further than that. It goes with Toya.
His brother.
Yeah.
His brother. They're the brothers that are best friends when you have a multiple family and you have the two older siblings.
My thing about that is we're not really given a lot of info as to how he died, you know? All we know is that Yeah, right. Toya just snapped on like, barely anything on like what happened, you know?
Yeah, the only thing we know about is that that it's somehow Endeavor's involved, and before that is that he could have potentially surpassed Endeavour in terms of flame abilities, but if he didn't have his mother's weak, frail body or something. And if only
Something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Now, it's also interesting about Endeavour trying to find atonement with his family now.
Which I know some people are like, wait, what? But
it's one of the most controversial. It's one of the most controversial aspects about My Hero Academia, because I think fans are split on whether or not Endeavour deserves a redemption arc.
But here's where I was gonna go with this, though. I think, given from the Pro Hero arc, maybe even during like the Remedial Course arc, that 3 to 4 chapter or mini arc that we had, it actually kind of makes sense that that's still a thing. So at least when it comes to from a storytelling aspect, I like that Koei's still like focusing on that.
It definitely makes Endeavour one of the most interesting characters of My Hero.
Because
a man who's destroyed his family in the quest of, I suppose you could say, a bit of power or to surpass his rival. Only to find out that he by default he ends up replacing his rival, and now trying to find out what it meant to be in his rival's shoes, and what he did wrong during the whole thing, and what he can try and do right now. And granted, I can understand why some people might have issue with this, because Endeavour may hit close to hard to home for some people who might have had abusive parents or something like that. Because, like, you could probably understand why some people might have issues with this kind of thing, but I think it's handled very well, at least.
I mean, it's not like one of those things where, now see, had this been like, say, we had not the Culture Festival arc, but the Sports Festival arc, and it's like, oh, like some time has passed and now Endeavor's feeling regret. It's like, what? Like, that would have felt like something was missing. But because, we've had everything, after that, with the Hero Killer arc, with Stain, we've had the Remedial Course arc, we've had little bits of it in the Joint Training arc, which I thought was kind of amusing. And then the Pro Hero arc, it's like I said, I think it makes sense to see this path for Endeavour.
It is interesting because it's definitely one of he's one of the focus points of like the Rise of the Villains saga, as he needs to now, he's unfortunately inherited the shoes of All Might, even though...
Yeah, which I think is something I can see. Like, I think if, like, overall with this arcs, not even with this arc, but with the saga so far, he's one of the highlight points right now for the Rise of the Villains saga. That's just me when it comes to Endeavour. I do like the sister, though. The sister's nice.
Oh, yeah. And it's interesting that, she still hasn't quite forgiven him herself, but she's
willing to,
Yeah. And it seems like, it's interesting having Midori and Bakugou there, as it gives an outsider's perspective to, like, the whole family dynamic thing. I mean, mostly when it comes to family issues and, like that, most outsiders usually stay away because it's a personal matter. But it's Midori, since he knows Shota quite a bit, he does seem to tell that it looks like you're nearly ready to forgive him. I think it's kind of fitting that if he decides that it's probably best for them to move out and try to live as normal lives as they can without him for the time being. Now, I would discuss a bit more about this, but I think I'm going to wait until like the predictions thing. But yeah. Anyway, should we now talk about what doesn't work in this arc?
The negatives. I guess you could call it a little nitpicking, but the fact that we didn't get a whole lot on Toya, on what exactly happened to him, is, you could call that a missed opportunity, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so, because that's kind of a big deal, when it comes to the overall arc. It's like, you see that Natsu's upset, you see that it's had an effect on Endeavour, but we're not really given the context as to what happened, you know?
I think the other thing that might be disappointing for this arc, I think that the villains are severely lacking, really.
Yeah, the villains are kind of one-dimensional.
They're more of just like a plot, let's see, plot A to plot B direction thing.
It's like during like one of like those standard Spider-Man issues where Spider-Man's just like finding one of those like random goons and he has to like take him up, you know?
Yeah, which it's fine, but let's see. But yeah, it's like usually with My Hero Academia, well, regardless of what you think of the arc, you usually get when introduced to like a villain, it tends to be something interesting with them, like staying with his ideology, overhaul with his planning, let's say gentle with his ambitions, and even high end with his like monstrous abilities.
Yeah, I definitely say like gentle, at least for me, was still at least a bit interesting because like amongst all the other villains, like he didn't care about like hurting anyone. He was like, yeah, look, I'm just doing what I'm doing just for views. That's all I care about. I don't care about like harming anyone.
Granted, I suppose you could say that the two villain, the first villain at least had some sort of interesting sort of magic-like design-wise, able to manipulate glasses and stuff. But granted, I did find like the other villain, let's see, ending name. Well, that's a bit cringy name, but hey. But I suppose it is interesting that he's a bit obsessed with Endeavour and wants to die by him. But hey, I suppose that was somewhat interesting. But like, he's only in like 2 chapters, so. You're not really. It's not really enough to fully get interested in the guy, but yeah, it's a short arc, really.
It is. I guess you could call it a little bit of a nitpick. Well, okay. The villain part I get. The Toya thing I can definitely say for sure is another thing where I'm like, we could have gotten something on, but I definitely say as far as negatives go, probably the villain and just Toya. I mean, did we get a whole lot on the mother? That might be the only other thing I could think of.
Let's see. I think she was talked about a bit.
Yeah,
but she didn't. I think physically appear in the arc. Let's see. I mean, maybe in like sort of like flashbacks and stuff. Like, I mean, you see her. I mean, one thing we see is let's see her, which we never really saw in like the sports festival, is her because we know she burns Shoto's. Let's see, left side, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Afterwards, she's sent away, but we end up seeing. But we didn't see the bit afterwards. When she burns him, she immediately realizes what she's done and tries to apologize desperately. What's the next bit of the podcast we need to discuss?
Well, I guess we can talk about our overall thoughts on the arc as a whole. So, I liked it. I would definitely say it's one of the fewer arcs in the Rise of the Villain Saga that's had, in my opinion, the least amount of issues.
It's mostly a character-centric focus arc, really.
Yeah, that's what it really is.
I'm not trying to do any big hero raid, rescue missions, or big battles, training stuff like that. Well, okay, actually, it's training, but it's more like the main focus is, of course, the Shoto family stuff, which has been continuing for a while. But yeah, I mean, if I was to give this a score, I'd probably give this an 8 out of 10, maybe a 9.
Okay, so for me, it would be like around a grade plus rating, which, if I converted that to numbers, 8.5.
Okay, so yeah, a B plus arc, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand why. I mean, it is one of the better arcs in the thing. Whether or not this is the starting point of My Hero reaching its past glory again, even though it's not really gone downright terrible yet. I don't think it's really had. Well, I guess it depends on how you feel about the joint training arc, but I don't think it's gone to Kage summit levels yet.
Honestly, that's what gets me excited about Season 5 is just seeing everyone's reaction. Like, wait a second, what?
Oh, that would be interesting to
I know
see.
Carter's going to have a field day with that. He's going to sit there and he's going to be like, how are they going to react to this? Because we know how it happened in the manga. People say, it's like, man, you get a backlash from a manga. I'm like, yeah, but a lot of people watch anime more than manga, so just imagine what that would be like for that.
Oh yeah, I suppose that is one of the downside of like that was one of the downside of Naruto, is that most fans were anime watchers, and if the anime does a bad job, it makes it worse. Studio Bones has shown to be quite good at adapting the My Hero
I
Academia.
mean, yeah, no, like they've been doing great. Like hell, and I mentioned this during the season 4 podcast, but you remember one of my biggest problems with the internship arc was the pacing towards the second half, and that's something they fixed in the anime. Because I remember I was watching, I'm like, is it just me or is it going by quicker than the manga?
I'm definitely seeing this arc being in the second half of season 5. That's
for sure.
About at least 6 episodes max at best, but hey.
I think this might be my prediction. I think this arc will probably be the last arc for season 5, for sure.
Fair enough. Granted, they might do some of the earlier chapters from like the next arc, but anyway,
they very much could do that too. I guess now we can like fully transition over into ranking the arcs, which, if I remember mine correctly, it's been a bit. If I remember correctly, joint training arc for me was at the bottom. Oh, I can't believe I'm struggling with this. Let me pull back up the rest of the Villain Saga. So let's see here: the provisional license exam arc, the internship arc, remedial course arc. Okay, so yeah, joint training arc, internship arc for sure was there. Then you had, yeah, I would say for me, as far as my rankings go, just based off memory, joint training arc, internship arc, provisional license arc, Meta Liberation Army arc. I think after that was Pro Hero and
Sports Festival, because that's your favorite arc of the saga.
Arc, yeah, that's where I was initially. So
I think, let's see, for me it was the bottom. It was joint training. Let's see, probably the remedy course thing. Let's see, maybe probably the internship arc. Probably then the Meta Liberation Army. And I think it was either Sports Festival or Pro Hero, and then again, and then provisional exam license arc. But hey, at the top. But I think if I probably would put this arc maybe in like third or fourth, or in the, let's see, third or fourth place.
Yeah, if I had to pick now, it's definitely not the bottom 3 for sure. Is it better than Culture Festival? That's tough. That's super, super tough. Is it better than Pro Hero arc? I want to say no, because the Pro Hero arc is actually the arc that does set up this arc in particular. So, Culture Festival arc, Pro Hero arc, Endeavour Agency arc, Provisional License arc, Meta Liberation Army arc, Internship arc, and Joint Training arc. That's where I would sit, but what about you?
I like the provisional exam ones. That's probably going to be that's first for me. I think then it's Pro Hero arc, then Sports Festival, probably then Endeavour Agency arc.
I think even Culture Festival.
Yeah, the Culture Festival. Sorry. Let's see. Endeavour Agency arc, Meta Liberation Army arc, Internship, and then Joint Training. Okay. I think that's how it goes for me.
Yeah.
Granted, I probably need to look at the old Meta Liberation Army arc podcast again, see if I remain consistent or not.
Yeah. I mean, again, guys, this is just us going off from memory. I'm pretty sure one people know that, like, well, we'll check back and be like, okay, maybe we could.
Guys, I'm pretty sure if you're looking at Naruto podcast days, you'll probably find we're a lot more positive about Naruto than we were now.
Well, most of it was me just excusing some of the stuff that happened in, because I think I even acknowledged that, like, the second half of Naruto's been.
I do remember you saying the war arc was one of the best arcs at one point in one of your own channel videos, but me, I was just praising every chapter, even some of the more questionable ones. But hey. Anyway, but yeah, we're not here talking about Naruto, we're talking about My Hero Academia, so...
No, and it's like I said, like, as far as Naruto goes, you'll have a podcast coming up. Yeah, I'm not going to say what it is, but it'll be an interesting one for sure. Because I had to wrestle with it for most of the year, actually.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, the expectations for the future are... Well, granted, we
already know what it's about, but given where this arc had ended, I was a little curious. For sure.
I think looking back at some of the stuff, I think some of the things I do remember expecting, I fully expect, given the stuff with Shigaraki in this, I was fully expecting him to learn, let's see, that Midoriya has one for all. It's being brought up a bit, so yeah, he's bound to find out the identity and all that. How he does that remains to be seen. I guess I also thought, is it possible that this arc might imply that Endeavour might die in the future? I mean, it was kind of teased in the Pro Hero arc a little bit, but...
I mean, it could be.
Well, granted, I do also wonder if this arc was also hinting at a more future relationship between Endeavour, All Might, and Midoriya. Him becoming one of the heroes that knows about the secret. I also do wonder if this arc, looking back, is trying to eventually set up Bakugou to accepting Shoto as a friend at some point.
I think it very well could, for sure.
I think this arc also was building up more on the Toriyami and Hawk's relationship, even though those two didn't really meet in this arc, but yeah. This arc was definitely building up for war, though what kind of war it was, because war arcs in shonen manga have been a very mixed bag.
Yeah, I mean, you had Naruto where it started off pretty rough, and it got interesting. I'm not gonna say that that it sucked all the way through, but it did have some interesting things. Albeit execution is where it really felt there. Then you had Bleach, which started off really well up until I'd say for Bleach it was up until they got to the Ice Palace stuff. Once the Ice Palace side of the war arc hit, that's when I was like, all right, this feels a little weird.
Uh-huh. And I suppose there's also the Fairy Tail final war where a lot of, character moments there, but also some things that were very frustrating.
See, Fairy Tail kind of falls into the same category that Bleach did.
Uh-huh.
Where, like, the first half of the arc was actually not that bad. I mean, look, it still had its issues, yeah, but it was okay. But again, once Irene Cassidy Universe 1, that's when it was like, okay, I don't know what's going on now, but it is not having the same effect that it did earlier.
Would you also count the Seven Deadly Sins Holy War as a not good a war arc, or?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I mean, granted, it didn't really it didn't really feel like much of a war arc, really, but hey.
No.
But hey.
If anything, and then I know some people are going to be like, I can't believe you're bringing this up, but Attack on Titan, its final arc is a war arc, and holy shit.
Yeah. That arc still hasn't finished yet. I mean, there's been two types of war arcs you get. You get, like, the ones that seem to have been introduced since Naruto, in which final arc, great battles, multiple wars, and all that stuff, bringing everyone together. Or you got, like, a war like One Piece, where you gather everything and seizing stuff in the future, where you have a big battle, and it ends the saga, or like the first half of the series. That's one of the one of the more well-received war arcs was the Whitebeard War saga with, like, the Battle of Marineford, and I guess you could also count the Imperial Down Raid as a sort of part of a conflict, but yeah. There's also Gintama's final few arcs, I suppose.
I would definitely say that, like, Gintama's war arc was really good too.
I believe also people say the Black Clover war arc was well received.
I wouldn't call it a war arc, though. That was more of an invasion than
I suppose it was more of a battle, really, but
yeah,
it still was a sort of like
a really good arc, though.
It's still like but it still feels like a bit of a war arc, I guess, from what I understand. Also, did some of the twists that Naruto was trying to do, but done right, from my understanding. So yeah, war arc is double-edged sword. I'm not sure what your current thoughts on this war arc now, but I think you want to save them for the next podcast when we're finally able to do it, of course. But yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna say anything yet, but the one thing I'll say is, and I said this during one of my update videos, but I said depending on how this war arc goes, could determine on me coming back to doing live reactions again. Uh-huh. Everything that this war arc has done so far really hinges on that. Everything that if it comes to me coming back, hey, Lucky Cheese wants to do live reactions again. It all hinges on how things go here.
So I think another thing I was expecting perhaps the future this arc is focus on Dabi with maybe with Endeavour and stuff, or Shoto, to see if we're going to finally learn, is he actually Toya or not?
I think, you know what? Maybe we could, because we got the whole Toya thing this arc. I could definitely see Todoroki and Dabi actually crossing paths.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm still also expecting a Toga versus Ochiko rematch. And this time an actual proper fight, but
it would be nice if we got that, Koei. I mean, again, look, Ochiko, as a character, not as a hero, but as a character, I think Ochiko's great. Combat was where I'm like, okay, I know she can do stuff because we've seen her in the sports festival. We've seen little instances here and there where she's doing stuff, but actually having her take center stage would be a great thing.
Another sort of solo or heavy centric focus fight.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest problems with female characters in shonen is they get one or two heavy focused arcs and fights, and then afterwards they only get minor fights or B support types.
Yeah,
that is a big problem in shonen.
It is.
Not all shonen, but it's been a very it's a sort of recurring habit that's happened with the big three and even some of the modern day mangas.
I'd say, Oda's done a pretty good job with Nami thus far, so.
Yeah, I mean, at least even though she hasn't really had a solo fight, she's been very well done, at least support-wise, at least.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's see, other things I'm expecting. I suppose, looking back at this arc, I guess it was building up to something with, Hawks and Twice.
I think the fact that you had a little bit of a tease with Shigaraki, I think was really telling that, okay, so we were going to see him again.
Yeah. Sure. And he's going to be more powered up, though. We had no idea what this power up was going to be.
Mm-hmm. And the stuff that's going on with him, without saying much, that's something, for sure. That's something. Whether or not I agree with those things, we'll have to find that out.
I'm looking forward to 4Life's reaction to it, to be honest.
Sparta's reaction would be real interesting.
Well, I think
I think he's still catching up.
It's a bit, yeah. But from the looks of it, since you're having all these heroes training, and there's clearly only 10 named villains that on the side, clearly not enough for everyone to get a solo fight. No. So, given the fact that there's at least over 100,000 villains, I think we'd see this conflict. I think you expect a more all-out brawl like the ones you get in One Piece. I think this is what the kind of conflict that I think it was setting up to do. Because it's not like with Bleach and Naruto where you had around 20 named characters and then Mitsu being either parts of one-on-one fights or they were teased in one-on-one fights.
Oh, Naruto.
But that's probably for when if we ever do a Naruto walk discussion, which I plan to do someday. Well, granted, I'm going to divide it into 5 parts. But first, I want to do some of the other arcs in part 2. But yeah. But first, I'm waiting to ask a few certain people to see if they want to do this arc or this arc. But yeah, which I'll tell you behind the scenes. But yeah. So, any other things that you were expecting in the arc? Because one thing I think I kind of noticed is that these double panels, you had an image of Kurogiri, and you were expecting. So, I wonder if this was implying that Kurogiri is going to return in some form.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it.
See, because it's this was one of the major villains from
the UAB gang. Yeah.
I mean, the teleporting villain. I mean, in most shonen, you get a bad guy that has the power to teleport. It's a way of having the bad guys escape to the next time thing, really. It's not really original, but Kurogiri was at least interesting in the way he was done.
As far as the standout character from this arc goes, I would definitely say Endeavour for sure. But if I had to pick between the three, between Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugou, I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on that one.
Well, they each get their own sort of moments in this arc, really. They all got, in many ways, equal amount of screen time.
They did.
But yeah. And sometimes I guess you could kind of sometimes forget who the protagonist of the story is. But Endeavour ends up being, of course, the central figure of this arc.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely say, yeah, like, Endeavour is the highlight for this arc.
Yep. So I take it that's everything we've talked about now, then, right?
Yep, that actually is pretty much everything when it comes to the Endeavour Agency arc. A pretty interesting arc, say at least for My Hero Academia.
I definitely said
I don't know if I'm going to say for certain that this is the comeback arc, but when you have this along with the Meta Liberation Army arc, it does kind of showcase that, okay, there's something happening here.
I'd definitely say, in terms of pre-war build-up arcs, I'd say this is probably the best since the confining Jinchuriki / Turtle Island one.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, whether or not the war arc this My Hero Academia's war arc will end up like Naruto's, that's yet to be seen. Though at the moment, it looks promising. I will say this.
Don't say that.
Okay, I apologize if I jinx this. But,
Hey, anyone listening to this right now, you remember Blue Star said this.
Okay, if the arc does turn bad, you're definitely going to use this as last time on My Hero Academia, like you did with the joint training. Oh well. But yeah, I suppose we should wrap it up before I jinx anything else.
I'll just say this right now for when it comes to the following arc. Like I said, whether or not I do live reactions, that's not going to prevent me from doing this, because talking about My Hero Academia this way is actually the most exciting way to talk about stuff happening, you know? But, like I said, this next arc is pretty interesting. Curious to see how it's going to end, and until then, we can't really talk much about My Hero, except for maybe Heroes Rising, which is going to be a bit, because that doesn't come out until
November?
November, around there. So, a few months.
Yeah.
But it's another little tease of saying, hey, there's still one more thing coming, but just gotta wait on it.
Uh-huh.
And aside from that, guys, I think that's pretty much it. Blue Star, it was really great having you on board for a My Hero Academia podcast, especially with it just being you and me, just talking about it.
This does seem to be happening a lot lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's interesting. Let's see. I did wonder how long this would be, though. Granted, knowing my other nickname, Mr. Wikipedia, I do seem to have added an extra 30 minutes to this than probably would have lasted with the two of us. But right, it was a fun arc, and I think most of the summarizing was important. But yeah,
did agree it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I look forward to when we do the next My Hero Academia podcast, which will likely be, depending on how long this walk is going to be, or the movie one. I believe before we go, I believe you have some other announcements for podcasts, or?
I know content-wise, like outside of the podcast, there hasn't really been a whole lot of stuff I've been doing, but I'm working my way up to getting things up and running again. Just been coming up with a few ideas.
Fair enough. I suppose next time we will be on a podcast, then it will probably be either Manga Wars or My Hero Academia, or the Naruto Anniversary podcast.
Yep, which, like I said, y'all are gonna have to wait on. It's gonna make for an interesting discussion for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm LuckyRave.
I'm BlueStarSaber.
And we will catch you guys next time. Plus Ultra.